Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the HCW YouTube channel, and welcome back to the UK Indy show reviews, and welcome back to Alex Connors. How you doing?
I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm living the dream. I'm Christmassy.
Feeling the December vibes?
Yes, and we're reviewing a show that was in November. So November 17th, we had Kamikaze Pro Live 39. It's still the latest Kamikaze show. It's now not out on demand yet, so technically we're okay. Um, it was a fun show. A packed out Stetford crowd.
Yeah, I think one of the best Kamikaze Pro Live shows of the year for the atmosphere.
Hmm.
Like you say, Stetchwood was pretty packed. I think the show before in the Collingwood Centre felt a little more stilted than this one. This
Yep.
one felt raucous, so I was much happier to feel that Kamikaze crowd back. And I know Pro Bank on at 8 was in the dojo, and that's where the next Pro Live will be. So it feels like Cami have got a really strong end to the year here. This one had a few guest stars on as well, which obviously we'll get to. So it feels like they've really stacked the end of the year with Bank on at 8, this Pro Live, and then Pro Live 40 coming home to the dojo as well. That should be a great atmosphere. So a little stilted crowd 4 or 5 shows ago has really been forgotten, and I'm really enjoying the buzz leading into the start of 2024.
Yeah, definitely. And the Kamikaze Pro Live 40 will be out a week today when this is out. I feel weird saying that when we're recording it, kind of thing. But we will kick off. So the first match on the card was Nate Riley versus Ronnie G, which it was a surprising match to see. Two both likeable guys. I didn't know who was going to win in this match, I'll be honest, when it was first announced, which is good
Yeah,
to see. Did you get to see much of these matches? Obviously, you
yeah,
preparing.
I much will be able to contribute to most of these. My match was after the interval, so it meant that I warmed up during the interval. So I managed to get my eyes on almost everything. This match, I was surprised as well. Definitely not people you'd expect to have any beef, and it was done pretty sportsmanlike.
Hmm.
Nate was a bit more serious, especially during the opening. He wanted to get the match going. Nothing underhanded or dirty, but he definitely wanted to get into the match, whereas Ronnie was a bit more fun and games, as you'd expect.
Yep.
Ronnie still had Coach Mahan helping him out. Those two obviously have formed quite the pair. They've got a tag match on the next show. They had a tag match before, and it seemed to help Ronnie a lot to have Coach in his corner, even in a singles match.
Yep.
We know that Nate Riley is very frustrated with his win-loss record, and I do think that's why he was a bit more on edge, a bit more trying to cut the jokes out a few times where he just thought, I'm just going to attack Ronnie, not underhandedly, but Ronnie's playing around, playing games. I'm just going to move the match on. I'm going to go for a hold. I'm going to go for a strike and try and pick up the pace a little bit. And at the end, that did cost him because he maybe underestimated Ronnie G, who caught him off guard. Beautiful rock bottom and a claymore, I think, was the
Yeah.
finish to this match. And Ronnie G, quite a big win for Ronnie G because Nate was one of the first 2.0 call ups. Him and Edgar have been the flag bearers of 2.0, but Nate has not had that success in the win loss column, and Ronnie G has.
Yeah. It was a big surprise. For not obviously for Ronnie, he is mastering the rock bottom. But I've never seen him hit a claymore yet, which if you're going to hit a move like that, he's a massive guy, Ronnie G. So when someone's throwing their foot full force at you like a torpedo, you're going to be out for the free count.
Well, I know
Um,
he went for it on
yeah,
Bank on the 8 after the rock bottom on me, but I avoided it, and that's the one move ahead of Ronnie that I had that Nate Riley didn't. The rock bottom Claymore combination, that's going to finish anybody off.
yeah, and it did, unfortunately, for Nate. Few things to bring up in this match. So at the start of the match, as you mentioned, Coach Mahon was around. Coach delivered detention to Nate Riley. Nate Riley wiped his ass with it. Most people go, oh, I don't want it. No, he literally just wiped his ass with it and went on. Yeah, fair enough. As you said, it was kind of a back and forth. Both guys are agile guys. Ronnie was more. It seemed a lot at some points where he was a bit more agile than Nate at some points, which I don't know if
Yeah,
it's because Nate's coming back from injury. But Ronnie surprised me how agile he is. Both guys hit massive chops. Ronnie G keeps hitting a dab. And yeah, we had a cheeky 619 as usual, and then the rock bottom claymore, as you said, kind of picked up the win. I rate this 3 stars. It really got open with the show. Both guys did well.
fantastic decision to have this as the opener because they are both fast-paced guys. Despite Nate coming back off injury, that shoulder injury, he's still obviously a trained gymnast, and he is really impressive to see. But for Ronnie, that's quite the run, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's lost since Pro Live 36. He's been really winning with or without Coach by his side. He's been on absolute fantastic form. He won, obviously, to qualify to that Bank on It match. He didn't win Bank on It, but obviously he didn't get pinned or submitted there either. So yeah, great run of form from Ronnie. Nate, he did show a bit more of that sass and that side of him that makes me think he's getting more and more frustrated, and eventually he's going to have to do something to break this losing record, because in singles matches for Nate, it's really getting pretty abysmal.
Yeah, and Nate's got a tough opponent coming up next. So after this match, out of nowhere, Samuel Hughes came down to slid in the ring, beat the crap out of both guys. And then something we don't get to hear from Sam that often, he actually cut like a live promo in front of the crowd. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it. He basically he told the story quite well of they were supposed to fight, and then Nate hurt his shoulder. They were supposed to fight again. Weirdly enough, Sam hurt his shoulder. So this is obviously their grudge match. You know, hopefully both guys, there's still a week to go, but hopefully both guys will come into this fit, and the winner takes the other wrestler's shoulder home, I've heard.
Yeah, very interesting, because this is not really a rivalry that built out of anywhere other than they've missed each other twice. Yeah. You'd like to think this was just going to be a standard match of Kamikaze trying to climb the ranks, but instead, because they've missed each other twice, they've both thrown a lot of barbs at each other. They've spoken a lot more. They've had a lot more time to antagonize each other. And Sam saw an opening and took advantage of it. And you're right, two very bad shoulders. I know Sam actually injured his preparing for that match with Nate, trying to counter some of Nate's offense and work on it. So that I know Sam's been training hard for this match. It will be really interesting to see whether this will be the one where Nate finally breaks his... I think he might be 0 wins in singles competition. I know he's won.
Yeah, I was surprised. Yeah, no wins that I could figure out. Because I'm sure I thought he must have won at some point at this point, but no, he's still on a losing streak, which is sad to see.
Yeah, so this might be the one. Will it be the one because he'll bring some extra aggression? Will he think that, as we know, Sam's turned his back on the crowd? Will Nate think, I don't need to play all fair and nice like I did with Ronnie? I can just throw everything at it, because you know Sam is definitely going to do that. Exactly. So this would be a very heated match, and this would be one of the matches to look for on this next show, because it's got to be one of the ones with the most build and the most antagonism. These guys have been at each other for months.
Yeah, there's some backstory to this match, and it's going to be a fun match to see. We will move on to the second match of the card, which was Edgar Adams versus Will Stevens. I really enjoyed this match. It's probably one of my favourite Will Stevens matches I've seen so far. Obviously, Edgar was outspeeding Will Stevens for a lot of this. Will Stevens hit a big spinning back fist, which laid him out, which don't get to see it often from Will.
No, but very good.
Yeah. Then he hit a dive on Stevens. Edgar was going to the offense at that point. Stevens then he went to the wheelhouse and realised, you know what, I'm a big guy. I'm just going to hit big moves. He hit a Stan Hansen-esque lariat. Like, I was surprised he didn't finish Edgar at that point. Stevens was then in control. He was hitting fall-away slams, just your big boy moves. Bulldogs. He hit a British Bulldog-esque power slam at that point. He was going to the well of just the big guys. Edgar then hit a springboard stunner, which, you know, that can change the tide at any point. And then Stevens was kind of getting into his wheelhouse of, he even said he got Edgar into an STF, which then changed into a crossface because he couldn't hold on to the leg that much. He was properly tied up at that point. Edgar, I think he grabbed a few of his other limbs, but Edgar got to the ropes. And Stevens' exact words were, "Come on, ref, I've got nothing left," which is probably not the best thing to say in the middle of a match. And then Edgar, he hit him kick in the back of the head. Then we hit his frog splash to pick up a win. Yeah,
interesting match, this one, because Will Stevens is the established Kamikaze vet who's been around a long time. But in my opinion, clearly the underdog in this match. I think Edgar was always going to win, which is a real surprise because Will Stevens has the size. I really like that Edgar is learning more and more every single match you see him. You're on about that springboard stunner. Every person that Edgar has faced, he's sort of adding moves to his repertoire. He had hints of Robbie X here. He just wrestled Robbie X, and now he's adding a Robbie X style offense to his offense, which was fantastic. Although Will Stevens, since his match with Chantel, I think that was Pro Life 37, I think he's really found form. He's been on a really good run. I think he had a certain sloppiness when I first arrived here at Kamikaze. He was big, he was rugged, and because of that, he got to where he was without needing to be technically sound because he could just bully people. But since he's been at Kamikaze, he's realizing that a lot of these people are just technically some of the best in the Britain, if not the world, and he needs to up that technical game and that technical standpoint. And I really think he has done that. And this, like you say, was one of the better Will Stevens matches. Really enjoyable. He was really on good form. But Edgar is just a class above a lot of people these days, especially considering he is only still a 2.0 graduate who's still in his first year of competition. Very impressive.
Yeah, Edgar's been superb this whole year. Will Stevens said it was my favourite match. I rated 3 stars. Will, he used what he has, which is his size, which I think Will recent matches I've seen, tag team matches, he's not been using he's one of the biggest guys on the roster, and he's been double teamed in matches, and it's like you're massive, use your power, and he did here.
A lot of the tag team matches, and this is where I said he'd been sloppy, because I feel like in his tag team matches that I'd seen him in, he'd been trying to keep up with the fast-paced guys and work to the style of his partner, and it's really hindered. And he spent a lot of those tag team matches one step behind and just getting, like you say, just battered in the openings by double team moves and faster guys. And he just felt like a ragdoll at times. But in singles competition, I think he's really turned it around. The Chantel match was excellent. This match was excellent. And he's really learning, and hopefully he stays on that trajectory. And I'd like to see him stay in singles competition, although we know he does have a tag team match at the next show, but hopefully with someone who suits his style, because he'll be teaming with Luke Douglas.
Yeah. Like the Stevens, hopefully this might work out as a good tag team for him, because he's the tag team partners he's had Parrot, Ron Parrot, which was they're kind of formulated too, but they were two big guys. Yeah. Whereas I think Luke Douglas obviously has the agility and the kind of bit of striking where it's not the same. And obviously his other tag team partner didn't really work out well for him. No, the good old Hastor.
Hastor is obviously much more frantic, much more energetic, much smaller. Ryan Parrott is a lot more comedic, and he's also trying to banter his opponents and get in their headspace, which is not Will Stevens' style at all. He's a serious, head-on kind of combatter. So even though they are both similar sizes, they don't have a similar style. Luke, he is a much more of a ring general, and if he can harness Will Power's size, then hopefully that'll work out well for them.
Yeah, and they're forming a team which technically they are a tag team, but it's still, I think it's their second match together this will be, so it's not like they're not an experienced tag team, but technically they're slightly more experienced than Luke and Will, I'm assuming, there's a tag team. But I'll research that and I'll confirm that at the preview show, which I'm doing with Ronnie G.
Very nice.
So we're going to move on to a match which was Kieran McQueen versus George Lydon.
No.
Non-title match. What? Sonny Noss versus Luke Douglas. You know what you're doing. Sonny Noss versus Luke Douglas. I think it's because I was speaking about Luke Douglas. I assumed I already spoke about Luke. So I'm going to throw it out there straight away in this match. Luke Douglas went to super kick Carl Robinson, and the crowd went wild. I was really happy. He didn't do it in the end, and I think everyone was quite annoyed by it. Yeah.
I mean, it's clear, obviously, everybody wants to see Carl get his teeth kicked in. He's the biggest villain of the show by a long way. I think everyone agrees with that. Everyone would just like to see Carl get his comeuppance, get battered, be left bloody mess in the middle of the ring. I think that's really what the Kamikaze fans want. It's what I want. It's what you want. It's what everybody wants. And you can tell Luke was feeling it.
But yeah, so that didn't happen, and I was quite sad about that. But Sonny Noss versus Luke Douglas was going to be a banger of a match just because Sonny Noss is incredible. Luke's obviously. I was surprised that Sonny Noss was proper out-psyching Luke at the start of the match. It's not something that Luke, it's common for Luke to get out-psyched by someone. He gets annoyed because they're trying to wind him up, but this was he actually got to him.
I think that's got to come down to the recent losses. So he lost to JC at the last Pro Live show, and Luke Douglas has had some key losses. Obviously, Maximus Okoro really started that trend. So it's not unheard of for these 2.0 guys to come in and in their first or second match beat Luke Douglas. I love Sonny Noss's energy and enthusiasm, so he was really going for it on the mental games. It was a messy brawl of an affair in the match. It was definitely chaotic. It wasn't the crisp, clean Nate Riley, Ronnie G back and forth that we'd seen earlier. It was a bit more of a brawling, chaotic, messy match. But you're right, Sonny Noss was definitely playing the head games and winning. And I think that's got to come down to Luke Douglas's recent losses, especially JC at the last show.
Yeah, and I think Sonny brings a different element to anyone else because his style of wrestling it's comedic in essence, but he's also very. I've already brought. He reminds me of a DDT wrestler.
Yeah,
he can do the comedy, but he also can kick the crap out of you at some point if he wants to.
And he obviously he's looking as a Kamikaze Pro 2.0 dojo sort of graduate now, but he didn't start there.
Yeah.
So he didn't go through his initial basics with Luke Douglas like most of the 2.0 guys did.
Exactly.
And he doesn't have the exact same style that most of those guys have. So that's going to be another thing that's going to play in Luke Douglas's mind. When Luke Douglas faces Edgar Adams and Nate Riley, they respect him a lot because he's helped them from the ground up. Whereas Sonny, he sort of come in straight from another place and gone into the advanced class. And that means that he's trained mostly under people like Marshall X or a man like Darius or Dan Maloney, and not really under Luke, because Luke tends to take people for the initial stages. So I think that also would have played a huge factor with Sonny thinking he can play mind games with Luke and he can upset Luke.
Yeah, and he nearly did. So he was out cycling at the start of the match. Then Sonny's a smart wrestler as well. He was out cycling, then he went for pinfalls. Whereas it wasn't just wind him up and then walk to the corners to laugh. He actually went for like your Mimali Stroll, your crucifix bomb and so forth. And he's actually cutting Luke off gun. A nice shotgun drop kick, which, you love a good shotgun drop kick.
I do.
And then he started whipping him with his shirt at this point. There was it was just a bit of there was a new commentary team at one point where Sonny and Luke Douglas had the commentary on hitting each other. Luke then kind of mellowed and kind of got into the match. He was hitting massive forearms, like your typical Suzuki kind of like this. You can hear that thud on them. Massive chops. The rage was unleashed at this point. There was super kick. Sonny Noss hit a code breaker though to kind of break up the fall. Big running strikes from both guys. Big forearms from Luke again. Sonny hit a massive headbutt for a 2 count, like just out of nowhere, which obviously Luke's not. You said he hasn't trained him, so things can come out the lock and you don't know they're there.
Yeah.
Big strike back at that point, which Sonny actually surprisingly won. I don't know if Luke tried too hard with the big strikes at the start and he's kind of wearing himself out. And then out of nowhere, a rolling forearm by Luke Douglas, and he picked up a big win. I would say it's a big win because that match was very good.
Yes, very good. One of the better Luke Douglas matches I've seen recently because he was pulling out new and interesting, crazy things because he didn't know where Sonny was coming from. I love Sonny, much like you. He's got that charisma and that fire. Just the second he steps through the curtain, you want to watch him, you want to cheer for him. Luke can be absolutely fantastic on his day, but sometimes I feel like when he's got these 2.0 lads that he's trained before, he knows exactly what they're capable of and he can just sort of sit back, bide his time, pick his spots. This time he was throwing everything at Sonny and Sonny was throwing everything at him. I absolutely loved it. Fantastic match.
Yeah, ready for it, of course. I really, really enjoyed it. It was just good to see. I like big strokes, and there was just big strokes. And Luke Douglas once again picked up a win, which he needed because he's been on a bit of a kind of backwards kind of winning, losing. And he did the smart thing. He didn't take Sonny Noss for granted and pick him up after he could have clearly beat him. So that's good.
And you can see that Luke Douglas really needed that win as well because he went for those pins. He was aggressive with it. He was aggressive with his offense. There was no taunting, no laziness, which you can see when he knows he's in charge. And it's true of a lot of confident wrestlers, when they know they're in charge, they take the time, they enjoy the moment. There was none of that from Luke here. It was aggression. It was hitting move after move. I loved seeing it. It was a fantastic Luke Douglas performance, and put away a promising young Sonny Nos. Can't wait to see what happens next time for Sonny. So we know what's happening for Luke. We don't know what's happening for Sonny yet. I'm looking forward to seeing that announcement.
Yeah, and hopefully by the time we film the review, I will know what's going on with Sonny. We will move on to a match I've already mentioned. We had Kieran McQueen versus George Lydon in a non-title matchup. Kieran wasn't happy about that straight away because I don't know if he just didn't know it was a non-title matchup because they announced it as non-title and he went, hold on. It was like,
Certainly a unique character is Kieran McQueen. You never know how much he's aware of what's going on around him and how much he's just living in the moment. But it was unusual to make it non-title because I do understand you have to earn a title shot, but it's rare to see George not defending his title on Pro Live.
Yeah. So Kieran could take that the wrong way, or why can't I get a title shot? So Kieran, he's lost his mind, and now he's a professional footballer. So he had to hit some stretches at the start of the match. He had to get his stretches in. He was doing footballer stretches, the good old like the curts like that. You're touching your heels and so forth like that. Then George and himself were in lockups, and then Kieran was accusing George of pulling his hair. Which I love that kind of thing. George then slapped the taste out of Kieran McQueen's mouth. Then Lydon took him. He was showing off a bit, as in like I feel like he didn't see Kieran as a threat suddenly. Like he was just doing big moves, but it was kind of like, look at me.
Yeah, so I do wonder how much George had an input in this being a non-title match and whether he thought Kieran didn't deserve one. Kieran has beaten Luke Douglas and JC, but then he did lose to Sonny Nos. So, I mean, Luke Douglas, that's a big scalp for Kieran McQueen. That was Pro Live 36, I think. So you'd think he'd done enough to earn one, but George definitely felt like he thought Kieran was not on his level. And really, when the action heated up, George may have had a point. When it got faster, George definitely was outclassing Kieran McQueen.
Yeah, which he's the champion, you'd expect. Well, is he the champ? So he chopping McQueen at that point. McQueen went to the well and poked him in the eye because, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, and that was the first time when I thought it was very obvious that Kieran didn't care about the fans anymore. He came out, and like you say, he's gone a bit weird as Kieran McQueen. He brought a football, but he just left it in the ring. He didn't touch it. He carried it to the ring, put it on the side of the ring, did a lap, never looked at it again, and George ended up playing with it. So yeah, I didn't know whether or not Kieran had just got frustrated with Sonny, who I think we saw a more devilish side from Kieran at that point. And I thought maybe he was just going to go back to the regular Kieran, but that point there solidified that he would do anything to win at this point, and he did not care about the fans.
Yeah, which, it happened with Sammy Hughes, and look how he done it. He got win after win after this. It became like a chop-tastic match at this point. Both guys were delivering chops. Kieran has got a good chop on him, I'm going to be honest. They're quite powerful. Lydon then hit, and I really enjoyed it, hit a doctor bomb, which, Lydon obviously loves All Japan and so forth like that. It was nice to see someone pull it out.
Yeah.
McQueen then hit a code breaker. Lydon then got smacked in the face by a title because, Kieran's a bad man now. And then he kicked out, which, it takes a lot to get smacked in the head by a title shot and then kick out of it. But George Lydon did it. And then he hit a Tiger Bomb and picked up the win. Rated 2 3/4 stars.
Yeah, I also loved the Doctor Bomb. I was definitely noticing that. You do say George loves his All Japan, and you can tell. The title belt shot. Obviously, George has 2 belts, so Kieran used one. Yeah. The referee stopped him, took that one aside, and while the referee's back was turned, the other one came into play. And Kieran got a full-face wallop shot there, and everyone thought Kieran was actually going to do it. And I do think at this point, non-title match, you'd think maybe George would have let that slide because he must have been damn near unconscious. But I do think that because George had that pride and that he'd basically said Kieran's not on my level, he dug down deep in that moment, and he would have done anything to not lose that match, because it would have been embarrassing, if anything else.
To be fair, he probably hit him that hard with the title. He probably thought it was a title match by the time we knew it out.
Yeah. Sometimes all your senses think is just a kick out, and you don't know why or where you are. So yeah, big guts from George there. Very exciting end to this match. It picked up pace in the second half for sure. I really loved the second half of this match because Kieran surprised me. Pulled out some shots I never expected he'd stoop to, but also anything to win. And if he'd have got that win, it would have been the biggest win of Kieran's career. So all respect to him, but even more respect to George for kicking out and putting Kieran away.
Yeah, well, George, Kieran's learned from Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes was loved by the fans. He wasn't picking up wins. He turned on Hassan Ali, started picking up wins.
Yeah.
McQueen, obviously it didn't work out this time, but it's a lot closer than you'd expect against George Lord.
Yeah.
So, hopefully he's onwards and upwards with that. We move on to the second half and a match that you might know a bit about.
I remember some of it.
It was the debuting Zach Walker, the future, versus Inquisitor Alex Connors.
Yeah, and what a performance from Zach Walker, and what a raucous crowd for Zach Walker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Zach, he knows he's pretty good at wrestling, which helps when someone debuts and they know they're good, where it kind of rubs off on the crowd. You have some people that are kind of wary of coming out and they're like, well, they like me. Zach Walker probably didn't care if people liked him. Yeah,
and I think Zach Walker also had the benefit of being so mechanically good that he could take some time to get that crowd support behind him. I knew I was going in there with someone who was mechanically good, but he had just turned 16 that week. I thought he's going to be shy, he's going to be nervous, he's going to be... Basically, the crowd is going to overwhelm him. But the exact opposite happened. He had the crowd in the palm of his hands, and that support definitely spurred him on to a few extra efforts, I think.
Yeah. So start the match. You would obviously, once again, you're trying to get your gear safely back to the back.
Can't be trusted. My mask has been smashed by that Kamikaze crowd once, so I'm not letting it happen again.
Outrageous. Scumbags. But yeah, it started off, so no one knew what Zach Walker was like. You probably could tell by his physique that he was probably going to be on the quicker side, which he tried to show. He then tried to do a test of strength, which was never going to work out well for him.
No, it was very clear that Zach was hugely at a size and power disadvantage, but he learned quickly and adapted in the match. To be honest, that test of strength, I didn't exactly give him much time before I used his opening to lay in a few shots of my own.
Yeah.
Of course, use the experience. But whenever I did try to slow it down, he would try and pick it back up. And that's what you have to do if you're a faster wrestler. Yeah. Very exciting opening. I think he dove to the outside, and then a few seconds later, he was diving off the stage, which caught me by surprise. I think that was something that no one would have expected from somebody in their first match at 16 years old. We see a lot of people dive out of the ring. It's not that high, but diving off the stage, flipping in the process, very impressive.
Yeah, you've got to have balls to do it, because it's not like there's not padding on that floor at all. It's just
straight from the wooden floor. That was
wooden floor. In the middle of that, you mentioned the dive he hit. Mention the flexibility of yourself to doing a trip kick on that ramp when you're below the ramp. Yeah,
I definitely have the splits flexibility that surprises a lot of people in the legs. I could have easily kicked 7 or 8 foot people in the head. So I took Zach off guard, swept his feet, and I swept his feet out pretty hard. He landed flat on that wooden stage, and I thought that would have taken him out for a good long while. But 30 seconds later, he was flipping off the top of it while I was heading back down to the ring.
Yeah, the adrenaline was still there. Got in the ring. You went for a shotgun drop kick, and for the first time I've seen in a while, you missed it.
I know. So Zach's done his studies. That's something that's only been done to me before at Kamikaze by Nate Riley, I believe. And I assume they train together quite a lot from what I've seen. So he's obviously been asking around, asking for my signature moves. And that's something he did have an advantage on. Obviously, he's got a huge size, power, experience disadvantage, but he can study me, and I couldn't study him.
No. which is the trouble. He hit Walker, then hit a rolling pay dirt, so he was just hitting stuff out of nowhere at one point. You had a really brilliant code breaker from the ropes as well. Caught him off guard at that point, 'cause you don't pull that out often. Which
No, desperate times call for desperate measures. He clearly wanted to hit a swanton. You could feel that through a lot of this match. This time when he went up top for it, just straight after that pay dirt, I kicked his legs out from under him, so he was hanging. Pretty similar to where I'd normally hit that shotgun drop kick, but because his legs were ankles on the ropes, I could use that to pivot him down, hit that code breaker with some extra force, and I thought that might have put him away, but it did not.
Yeah, and you said, like, he got to you. If you're pulling out moves that you don't normally do, there's no studying can help.
But yeah, my usual shotgun dropkick normally stops the momentum of most people of that sort of size, and that would have been a fine way to cut him off. But yeah, he was one step ahead of all my usual cut-offs, so I pulled out something new.
Yeah, you then hit a Uranagi into a backbreaker, into the gory stretch kind of version of yourself.
Fire Prism. Oh,
Big slap.
Fire Prism.
There you go. Then Zach Walker decided, I'm going to have a strike battle, which probably isn't the smartest thing to do. There is a bit of a size difference with that. He did hit a tilt-a-whirl DDT out of nowhere, though. He hit a big cutter on you, and you just kicked out. Went for the swanton, 1-2, foot on the ropes. Know where you are in the ring, which is what you always need to know as a wrestler. And then you kind of took control at that point. You wait for you hit a double stomp on you at that point, I believe. Then he went to the well again.
So I double stomped him.
That was it.
Yeah, and then I picked him up for my finisher, the Crown of Thorns Brainbuster, which we all know and love. He countered that, and then he went for the swanton one time too many. But yeah, kudos to the cutter swanton combination. Really would put anybody away, and if it weren't for the ropes being within just the tip of my toes reach, that could have been a win for Zach Walker, and I think the crowd all thought that was a win for Zach Walker, because the cutter itself was a 2.999 kick out. That felt like the last of my energy. Then he finally got the swanton, and I think that was the third or fourth time he'd gone for it. He finally hit it, and I think the whole room thinks Zach Walker's going to win his debut there, and if it weren't for foot on the ropes, he probably would have.
Yeah.
I reversed that. I hit my double stomp on him. He kicked out of that. Very, very tough, because I landed right on his head with all my weight on his much smaller frame. I thought that would have popped him wide open, but he kicked out of that. I went for the Brainbuster. He countered. He knocked me back down. He went up for the swanton once more time. This time there was no water in the pool, and a quick schoolboy for the win.
Yeah, you knew he was done at that point. If you miss a swanton, it's not the funnest time. I rated 3 stars as well. I really enjoyed this match. It was a very, very good debut for Zach. Obviously, you picked up the win, which is good for yourself as well. And what was nice is after the match, Zach got a standing ovation, which is for your debut. You can't ask for much more.
No, you can't ask for much more than that. I think he really deserved it. He gave absolutely everything to that match. And it really was, and this is a huge respect to Zach Walker, it really was the experience that got the win, because I didn't brainbuster him. The Crown of Thorns Brainbuster is what's put away almost all of the 2.0 guys. Normally I hit the Shining Wizard to the back of the head and that Crown of Thorns Brainbuster and we're done. I had to use a bit more wily veteran skills to put away Zach. I never managed to land the Brainbuster. I don't think I managed to land the Shining Wizard to the back either. Nope. Just use the ropes to my advantage to escape his offense and use the ring position to my advantage. Schoolboy 1, 2, 3, and he cost the match himself, and that's all down to experience, which he will of course get better at. We already know matches with both of these competitors as well, because Zach Walker, what a second match for him. He'll be facing the Kamikaze Pro heavyweight champ, man like Darius.
Yeah, it's it's not the easiest match to go next, is it? We will move on though to a match which sounds mental on paper, but I actually really love this match. So we had the first of surprise. Well, they're not really surprised because we announced, but it was surprising that we're on the card. We had the cheeky little buggers, Alexis Falcon and Charles Crowley in a live show, which is just insane in itself.
Yeah, I think Kamikaze said they'd pay $1 million to anyone who could guess this match ahead of time. I know all the inner workings of Kamikaze. I had no idea this match was coming. I never would have guessed this in 100 years. What a strange combination for essentially Team 2.0, JC and the Ring Gremlin. Very weird. We've never seen any alliance between them. And two guys we don't see at Kamikaze. Fantastic to have them guess the cheeky little buggers put on a hell of a show.
Yeah. So Ring Gremlin and JC as a tag team. The Ring Gremlin tried to propose to Alexis Falcon.
Shoot your shot. You got to try.
And she definitely shot that down. He was biting the hand of Charles Crowley. Because Charles Crowley, his exact reaction on Twitter was, a Ring Gremlin? Fucking sick. But yeah, I don't think he was thinking that when he was actually in the match.
Yeah, and the Gremlin did a lot to throw the ref off, or the ref was maybe biased towards the Kamikaze homegrown talent here, because some of those bites did not get pulled off immediately or counted. I noticed the Ring Gremlin got away with a few sly things here, all in good fun, all with the crowd support, but the referee was missing a lot in this match.
Exactly, and Ring Gremlin did some studying, I believe, because Charles Crowley has a kind of signature kind of move where he gets his hat. He calls it a magic trick where he just punches someone in the face. Ring Gremlin bit his finger, you know, the way with that. Then we all know who the Ring Gremlin's favourite wrestler is. He started hitting some shoulder tackles. Charles Crowley then slapped the taste out of his mouth. Then they started tagging it in, and then going to lose JC's guarantee at that point. A 5-knuckle shuffle, because we all love a 5-knuckle shuffle. There's backcrackers. They started to work over the Gremlin. They realised that he's just a bit mental, and you probably should just kick the crap out of him.
You stop playing him at his game. Yeah. That's when you can start to get the momentum in your favour.
He hit a big double clothesline though, and he had the hot tag for JC. He then threw the Gremlin because why not? Gremlin spin with 4 people. They kept spinning around at that point. Then the Gremlin pinned JC, and then Charles Crowley broke up the count, which is
yeah, JC hit not JC. The Ring Gremlin hit his weird, crazy spinning head scissors on everyone in the ring. Right, his partner.
And the ref.
Doesn't matter.
The ref.
And pin JC afterwards.
Yeah, a massive stick spinning DDT by Crowley at that point. JC, he's famous pump handle now, I'm going to say. I've not seen that move used since Road Dogg. So fair enough. And then normality resumed, I would say, and Crowley and Alexis picked up the win with a massive spike DDT. And I'm going to stand by this rating. I feel like I'm never going to be able to rate wrestling ever again. I'll rate this 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed this match.
Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I thought it was very interesting for Kamikaze to put quite an over-the-top character in Charles Crowley, who everyone knows, against some of the more over-the-top characters from the 2.0 dojo. There are some things that I thought were strange, though, because the Ring Gremlin and JC have obviously never teamed. They have not really got any way to even communicate a game plan, let alone put a game plan in place. And I think that was pretty obvious. The ending of the match was a little bit frustrating. Alexis Falcon, she hit a vicious DDT, but before then, it was sloppy from both teams. They couldn't hit any double team move that they were going for. And in the end, it just seemed like the flashiness went out and Alexis Falcon just got vicious and hit that spike DDT. But I think there was a few moves there that either team could have hit that would have been very exciting to see, and it just fell apart because obviously you don't want your opponent to hit a move on you, so you're trying to block it, but neither team could coordinate that double team offense, and Alexis Falcon took control for her team. Maybe some people might be surprised by that. She was really the boss there, I think, and hit that spike DDT for the win.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but the middle part of this match was very entertaining. Hugely fun to watch. 4 huge characters, absolutely getting their wildest, craziest antics out there, which was really good. But when the match picked up and got serious, Ring Gremlin and JC, they're not a team, and they do have a bit of a way to keep up with the likes of Charles Crowley and Alexis Falcon.
Yeah, and what really made the crowd was proper into this as well, because it was really well done. But we will move on to a main event, which on a live show is silly. We had Chantal Jordan versus Su Yung, the Undead Bride.
No.
I was on a train with Carl, with Wrestle Carnival, and they announced this, and he went, "You'll never guess who." And it took me, and he went, "You're very unique," and I went, "I guess you Young." Very surprised by it. But yeah, no. The backstory to this is Su Yung came over to Kamikaze like 6 years ago for Chana. Did a seminar, really loved Chantal, and she's always wanted to fight Chantal, and she requested this match while she was over here.
Wow.
Which, if Su Young's going to request a match, you can give Su Yung the match.
And what does that say about Chantal? What an absolute star.
But yeah, this was very good. It started with Su Yung wouldn't lock up with Chantal. She didn't want to play that game because Chantal is the bit of the technical side of it. Chantal hit a massive strike and a dive on Su. Then Su Yung decided to have a beer, which, fair enough. She spat the beer. She then threw Chantal into the chairs, so it became a bit more like a brawl. Su hit a big spinning sidewalk slam onto the apron. Not just the sidewalk, she span around and slammed her onto that point. Big kicks to the back on Chantal. We're talking like levering kicks. And then I wrote here, and we discussed this prior to this, because you've watched the Showdown video, which was a mockery of quizzing. I wrote the Rude Awakening. Yeah, anyone that watches that, I think it wasn't our fault. The quiz was awful. Rude Awakening, it's bad. I'm going to discuss slightly after more because we didn't speak a bit. Strike backle from both people. They both hit a double big boot. Both were down. Chantal then went to the wheelhouse, literally kicking the crap out of Su Yung. Backcracker at that point. And then Su Yung hit a pole driver in the ropes, which you don't get to see that often. Then there was a rope assisted German. She hit a pop up like bomb at that point. Chantal hit.
Yeah.
It was just like the kick out near fall. Assisted rope backcracker by Su Yung for a near fall.
I think that rope assisted German, Chantal German suplex Su Yung off the middle rope, and Su Yung fired immediately up.
Yeah, she literally went, "Do you know what? No." that was what it was. But this match was just insanity at that point. Su Yung brought out the red mandible, the red glove mandible at that point, so he couldn't get it in that. And then Chantal, she won the match with a tombstone, which is not normally a Chantal move. She does a variation, kind of, if you look at it, with the dead eye, which is kind of a version of it, but this is a straight-on drop into one on the head.
Yeah, I think, so Su Yung, I believe, was in the ropes, right? And Chantal caught her off the ropes. And I know Chantal normally hits a sort of key crusher variation.
Yeah.
I think this was that, but obviously you couldn't really tell because she didn't lift her, so she didn't get her in that fisherman's position because she already had her off the top. So I think that's what Chantal's mind was thinking. But yeah, I mean, essentially it's a pile driver, and once somebody's already up in the air, they all look the same at that point. Yeah, it was really a fantastic match, one of my favourite matches I've ever seen at Kamikaze Pro Live. Amazing to have Su Yung there. It was really good. She was so, just really gave everything. She didn't tone it down because she wasn't in a bigger venue or she wasn't in her home promotions. She went all out. You could tell the experience, but what I really liked about this match was every time Su Yung would do something, Chantal would eventually meet her and then exceed her, and then Su Yung would change the game plan. So like I said, it became a brawl, and then it became strong style, and it was technical, and then it was suplexes. Su Yung would have to go to the well to something different because Chantal was just so good, and then Chantal would be caught off guard by that experience, and then eventually Chantal would work her way back in, and she'd start winning at this new game, and then Su Yung would change the game again. Really great match to see. Ending was a huge surprise. Well done to Chantal. Yeah, absolutely. Planted her with that pile driver at the end, off the ropes. Yeah, brilliant match. Atmosphere was wild all the way through. Crowd were really behind. I mean, they loved seeing Su Yung, but they were really behind their hometown girl of Chantal, and it just made it that extra special when she finally picked up an upset win, even for Chantal. Got to be an upset.
and it topped off a good night. I would say this is either slightly better or on par with the dojo show at the dojo,
Yeah.
which like crowd wise and the matches, and it was a very good night for Kamikaze Pro.
Yeah, I've got to agree. This was one of the best ones, especially I think the recent run. This has really peaked in the last few shows, and hopefully the next one, Pro Life 40, will be the same. And it is in the dojo, which I love. So hopefully those last run of shows will really end Kamikaze on a high. I feel like we had a really hot summer, but November maybe was just a little bit of a dip, or September, November, and then December. End of November through to December has been really, really hot again, and that's really good to see. So very happy with that. Great show, great atmosphere, great crowd, absolutely standing room only in Stetchford. And to have this crazy mix of big imported names and everyone giving their absolute best from 2.0, that's what Kamikaze is at its best, and this was really one of those shows.
Yeah, and you need to get down to the show next week. It's in Birmingham. It's literally a 10-minute walk, 15-minute walk from the station. No excuses. It's on a Friday night.
Perfect.
I'll be there. I'm going to be doing a preview with Ronnie next week. We're going to get him on the show to preview, so no more DP, which you're not a fan of anyway.
Get out of here, DP.
As soon as you said you didn't want him on again, I got him off.
Yeah.
But as usual, that's the end of this. So like and subscribe. We'll be reviewing more shows. I'm going to a couple more shows till the end of the year. So we'll review them. One show I've not been to, which I won't give away, but there'll be a review for that at some point as well. You will be there. That's the only reason I'm going. But yeah, so like and subscribe, comment down below what you thought of the Kamikaze show, what you think they're going to be in the next one. And that is goodbye from myself.
Sayonara.
Oh, yeah.